All right, last one. What one practice will have the most impact on health if every American started doing it today?
I have 2 different singular practices in mind.
2 different singular practices.
Like,
I'm just interested to see
yeah.
what fits inside of that idea.
Okay, one would be minimize screen time, because I can't avoid it in today's world. But if you minimize it, it'll force you to do other things outside of that time, like deepen relationships, be outside, go for a walk. So that would be one. And the other one would be wake up and drink water.
That wasn't singular.
No, I have two different
ones.
singular.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say 2 things that fit inside of one idea. That's what I was like.
I'm more seriously with dystopic, visions, interested in the shutdown screen models of that first point, right? Just think about how do you get people to do that without just us, speaking the usual things about, just decrease your screen time,
It's the lockbox. People have like those lockbox things.
I was thinking about something further, like top down, the whole thing.
Everything unplugged.
Not North Korea style, but like,
cut it off.
Cut it to the point where, that gets really uncomfortable. Sorry, that's where my brain went.
It's like China shutting off TikTok at like 8 p.m., I think. It's like, no one has access to this thing at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I
well,
like
when
it.
you asked that question,
I
sat down last night and I was really thinking about it. And I'm just like, man, there's those 2 points of contention in my mind most people are experiencing. And I went with screen time first, but then I just thought about the amount of people who don't drink water or drink other forms of liquid throughout the day and don't get enough water. And like that is such a fundamental first step.
Yeah, and you make you I don't know if you knew, but you indirectly make a really strong point of, again, this point that I make all the time, because mine was just going to be walking, right? And you always think about this idea, like what would be, he took mine, yeah.
It was my number one.
Okay.
I have a number 2 there.
Okay, super. But, I really don't think, and I've talked about this on monologues before and here, I don't think that will fix it. So I'm really interested in what tips people into doing things that over time makes them realize the power of that practice and how it helps them be healthier. Right. So that's why I really like the first concept of like, although it sounds in giggle terms authoritarian, in regards to what you control for what people can do for their screen time, there is something like that in there that I think is going to be the true actual push to get quote unquote Americans up and moving. And not to sound like, negative on it, but if we just leave it up to Americans to make choices, how do you think that's going to go? We see where we are right now, and nothing's going to change. So I'm still going to say walking as being something, but then you got to say, you really think people are just going to get so inspired to walk around now and to move things and talk the big talk like I do on like, it's going to make them clear thinkers and they're going to go walk for their food and they're going to now start. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I think you have to go further with that one and say walking's going to be your only means of transportation, or maybe it's like walking and cycling.
Yeah, I love that, because you're then starting to say, well, what would cause the tip over effect? To make that work. And, I can't come up with anything that...
I don't know what the tip over is, but like thinking about the positive follow-ons from that, you'd have people that are more engaged in their local communities, that are forced into working in their local communities because they can't commute 2 hours for work anymore.
Congratulations, you just increased the unemployment rate.
I know this is not a practical suggestion.
She's got invested. She's invested in Zoom. She's got money in stock in Zoom.
There we go, guys.
She knows people are not going to walk to work anyways. They're staying at home.
No, but just imagine if we had like a city infrastructure that was set up with like more of that local village style approach. It's not how it exists anymore, but people would be much better set up for healthier, vital lives.
Yeah, for me it was the same. It was walking, but for a different reason. I was thinking about what activity or what thing, what single practice can have impact across the most amount of things. And when you said like screen time, I'm thinking back to my thing, and I'm like, well, if people walk more, right? So let's say walk more, it's like you have to walk for 2 hours every single day. Figure it out. If people are walking for 2 hours every single day, they're probably going to walk when they could have otherwise been behind a screen, right? So they may have less screen time. If someone can walk, they're getting in movement every single day. If someone can walk, maybe they're walking after meals, so it increases their ability to digest their food.
It might make them thirsty.
Yeah, if someone's walking, they might be drinking more water.
That's the route that I took, is like, it'll be the tip over, but I kept going on that. There's no way people are going to get in.
This is like there's a genie in front
Yeah,
of
I
us.
was trying to pull it back to like what is the practice / behavior change that could influence the most amount of positive new behaviors?
Yeah.
I really think it's walking. If people did it, I really think it's walking, because there's so many, like, you think differently when you're out in nature and walking. You can learn while you're walking with technology. You throw like AirPods in and listen to a book or listen to an interesting podcast, listen to us talk about living a larger life. There's a lot of things that you can accomplish from a health standpoint just by walking out of your front door and just moving for an hour at a time.
Great.
Yeah, we could talk all day about the positives. I don't think it's going to happen. And I think it's only going to go in the opposite direction. I think it's innate for us to try to come up with shit to make it easier for us, whatever that is. And it's being thrown in front of us at an alarming rate every day. And that's not going away, because now there's people that make a shit ton of money on your adaptations. Adaptations to make shit easier, get food sent to your door, electric cars, autonomous vehicles, bikes now that are fully fitted for, anyways, gosh, I got to get off on that. I get so heated in regards to e-bikes and young kids flying around on these bikes going 40 miles an hour now. But they're allowed, because, why? Because they have pedals on them and they never use it. They use them basically like scooters. My whole point on that, like I have with pickleball, we are set up to make shit easier for us. So by saying things like walking, which I'm fully on board of, and knowing all the positives of that, humans down the road are going to try to figure out how to make a pill that gives you the feeling of walking. We already have it with mimetics and biotech and all the money that's going into that. So it looks pretty bad. Although the point that I want to give a little bit of something there to Carl is, no, the point on the future of learning, if it's going to be connected to what we believe in nature and physical natural laws, is going to be more audio than it is visual. So that's something to think about with regards to how we push things forward, and how because we want people listening to us or listening to a message or trying to learn as they're participating in their physical expression, right? Because the stuff that we discuss, and what we believe in, weights and walking long, you can listen to things while you do both of those. But where can you not do that? A high intense class, flying on a highway, on a bike, doing a pissing match in a sport. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's tough to do that. So there's something in that I think the audio component, we could say, like, listen to the soothing voice of James Fitzgerald as you walk for 2 hours in nature. Well, I talk about eco-psychology and Homer's classification of death. Yeah.
I knew you guys were going to say walking, so I had walking as my number one, but my number two was...
Do we give that off? Like, what makes you think that...
It's the obvious one, right? And for the reasons that you guys have already laid out and said, but my second one was learn to cook food for yourself and your family and have that food together. I think if we learn to cook, we have so much more awareness over what goes into our meals, which people just don't have.
Yeah, no, this is the thing that I came up with I don't know why I'm looking at you, because I talked about it in my office, about this, that I just sat down one day and I said, okay, if I just wanted to play this out of my mind and have this back and forth between, you had to make a decision, what comes first, movement or food?
Yep.
Right? I think that could be a podcast, because that's your point you just made there. And that's what we're talking about here, right? It's what's gonna do something that essentially will. And I'm being swayed, because my answer in the room was that if people started preparing their own food and falling in love with that concept of the sourcing and the packaging, and also giving it to other people around them,
it's powerful.
It's a good argument, right? It's
really
a good
powerful.
argument. You want more clear thoughts. You want to think about things. You want to make better decisions. Now that you have all this energy, right? I don't know.
For the bigger discussion, but I'd go with movement still.
Okay.
Over cooking.
Well, let's do it another
over
time,
food.
because some good things we can add to that.
That's time, guys.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.